South Korea saw what's called a golden cross over the weekend. For the first time since the country witnessed its first reported case of novel coronavirus on January 20th, the nation saw more recovered COVID-19 patients than those under treatment.
Today, we have achieved the 50% recovery mark, where there are more people who have recovered than who remain under quarantine treatment.
Of course, this would not have been possible without tens of thousands of healthcare professionals at the front lines battling this invisible enemy. People from all walks of life have been showing their gratitude in their own ways. And today, we have two charity organizations that managed to bring together some 160,000 volunteers and donators to South Korea's hardest hit Daegu and Gyeongsang-buk-do area in hopes that the nation will overcome this pandemic together. We have Chung Eun-ji, Assistant Manager at Asian Development Foundation, and Kim Se-hoon from Changemaker. Welcome both to the program.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Now, so first of all, why don't you two tell us what it is that your organizations helped do in channeling help and donations to the healthcare workers on the front lines of COVID-19 in South Korea?
Well, as we all know, Daegu and Gyeongsang-buk-do area has the largest number of coronavirus cases in Korea. So it has a huge impact on many sectors of society and industries. And I thought it is especially tough for small businesses like local restaurants and pork markets. So, and because their products are perishable. And also healthcare professionals, they are burning themselves out every day, struggling. So we wanted to do something for those having hard time in Daegu and Gyeongsang-buk-do area. And we thought that it would be better if we could do something for both of them and doing it at the same time, because they all sound equally urgent to us. So we came up with the idea of buying foods from local restaurants or markets and prepare college meals for healthcare workers.
So, but you coupled up with Changemaker, basically.
Yeah.
How does that work, and why did you decide to do that?
Because we've got the idea, but we didn't really have much details, such as local networks or reliable partnerships. And we had even no idea about where to buy food or how to deliver the food, and even what kind of foods the doctors and nurses would like to eat. So, but we really need to some kind of arrangements for that, because it wasn't just about the money given away and done. So we have consulted Happy Bean, which is an online service platform for donations or public interest campaigns, and they were like, okay, we know the perfect team for this, who can do this job very well. And they introduced us the Changemaker there. So we thought they are very young and passionate and trustworthy, and I thought they know what they're doing, so we decided to working on with them.
So the young and the passionate is Se-hoon over here, right?
Yeah.
So you were matched up with Changemaker, and where do you come in here?
So what we do is, first of all, our organization exists for the people who are in need of help, and we reach out to these people with the mindset that, we just didn't want to feel that they're just left alone, and that we're just here together. So as of now, the main groups that we are helping out are the seniors who are living alone and single moms who are raising kids by themselves. So in this particular time of Corona, the COVID-19 pandemic, we are, we do deliver lunch boxes, masks, sanitizers. So just the bare minimum supplies that they need.
How big of an organization are you?
It's not very big. It's not large. It's not like very large non-NGOs. But we work with only a few groups of people, under 10 people.
Oh, really?
So yeah. We do need a lot of help, change makers.
So having having either worked or seen the situation there, what was it like? I mean, to you, what did it seem like these healthcare providers or the people there, what did it seem like they needed the most?
Well, I think it's just basic thing like rest, sleep, but we can't give them that kind of thing because the things are really, so.
It's not providable.
No, at all. So we decided on okay, at least we can feed them with nice meals. So that's why we came up with this idea of this project. Yeah.
And I think, Sehun, you were there yourself, right?
Well, that's not true actually. I myself didn't go down to Daegu, but I can speak on behalf of Mr. Song, who actually went down to Daegu Dongsangbyeongon.
Okay, and
he recently went down there, and he's the founder of the Changemaker.
Okay.
And he went down to Daegu Dongsangbyeongon to deliver, lunch boxes, protective gloves, and masks, and even refrigerators and microwaves. Because one of the things I realized was that these hospitals have more than 200 medical staff members, and they don't really have enough microwaves or refrigerators, so that they have to wait in line just to use these kitchen appliances. So that's the reasons why we've supported them with refrigerators and microwaves as well.
So how were you able to find out that these particular appliances were what they needed?
We did call them on a daily basis. We continue to constantly, asking them, what are the things that you guys need? What do you need tomorrow? Things like that. But the interesting thing that we heard from them is that not a lot of large NGOs aren't really doing that. They're not really doing the same thing, like asking them on a daily basis, what their needs are. So yeah.
So my understanding is that lunch boxes and meals are some of the things that were delivered to them by you guys. And we hear that there are quite sizable restaurant and cafe owners who are willing to donate meals and lunch boxes to these healthcare professionals in Daegu and Gyeongsangbuk-do area. And these cafe owners, these small businesses, are going out of business themselves. Tell us about their stories. How were you approached, if you were approached?
Right. So this was, another thing that we've noticed as well. These small business owners. So not only these medical staff members need supports, these small business owners are also suffering from, going out of business. Because nowadays people aren't simply not showing up at a restaurant. So what we decided to do was just link between these two groups, hospitals and these restaurant owners who are about to go out of business and who have already gone out of business. So we will be delivering foods, or we will be ordering foods from these particular restaurants and then delivering them to these hospitals, so that hopefully, these small business owners could also survive through this COVID-19 pandemic.
Now, was Changemaker funded by the Asian Development Foundation? Is that how it works?
We give them fund and, and they arrange everything. Yeah.
And they actually do the actual work. So how did you manage to, raise the fund?
Well, we get the fund from our founders, so we don't really collect money. We don't collect money from donors at all. We are solely funded by our founder, so we have money for this. So,
and why was it that you decided to donate for COVID-19?
Because we thought it's really very important and significant. Like as an NGO, like it was very important to share this hard time together. And even though it's not really our, we don't really have much this kind of programs a lot, but yeah, we thought it's really important to be a part of society. Yeah,
Well,
in this
we're
time.
really glad
Yeah.
that you rose to the occasion. Now, Seun, did you also have an opportunity to work with COVID-19 patients?
Unfortunately, I didn't have. I am a full-time employee at another Korean company, so I didn't
Oh,
have.
are you?
Yes.
So
yes,
you're a volunteer
yes,
exchange maker?
Yes, I am a volunteering. I'm
Oh,
a
is that
volunteering
right?
staff members. We just
Okay.
everyone calls us staff members.
Okay.
Yeah. So unfortunately, we didn't have time to spend our time with patients. Our Mr. Song also, even though he went down to Daegu Dongsangbyeong, he wasn't able to meet with other patients as well.
But do you know what they needed the most?
They would need, I guess, caring,
Yeah, support.
supports, lunch boxes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We know that the Asian Development Foundation is also working with VANC to, I guess, introduce South Korea's COVID-19 response to the global community. What is the purpose of this campaign? What are you guys doing with VANC to promote? What kind of message are you trying to convey?
We are recently working with VANC in order to spread the message of kind of global solidarity in defeating this COVID-19 pandemic. So we built the website where we post news articles and videos and interviews and statistics, anything informative. They are all translated into English and Vietnamese, and we have Vietnamese version because there are some fake news and misconceptions going around in Vietnam about, on how Koreans deal with the virus. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Is it
it is.
Vietnam in particular? Is that why you have Vietnamese language?
Yeah, kind of. I think
Yeah.
it's kind of particular. Yeah. So, and like when we at the time we started this campaign with VANC at first, Korea was the second most infected country in the world after China. But it wasn't because we were riskier than any other place in the world, but it was rather than because it was because we were proactive rather than reactive in coping with the disease.
We're testing more.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. So in Korea, the tests are fast, and all the information you need are open to public, and preventative measures were very effective, and also the process is very transparent. Yeah. So we wanted to give people credible data and the verified information. And we also hope that people get the message of working together and staying together in this time of crisis. So, but even though we are staying apart physically, so that's why.
Right. Now, Seun, for those of our viewers who'd like to take part in this COVID-19 related donations or volunteer campaigns, are there any that you would like to introduce to us?
Well, there is. We do accept donations. You guys, for people who are interested in, we can go online and at changemaker.or.kr. But financial aid isn't the only thing that we can do. I would personally like to ask anyone who's listening to is to pray. Pray for other people, pray for yourself and your health and other nations and our nations. Praying is one of the most precious things that anybody can do, right? So hopefully, we can all go back to the ordinary life that we have been taking for granted for such a long time.
Right. And would you like to add to that?
Yeah, the same. Like we can just stay calm and keep social distancing and pray for ordinary life to come back.
Right, and hopefully the entire world will be back to normal in no time. All right, thank you both for sharing your stories with us on our News in Depth tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for staying strong as the entire world continues our global fight against the novel coronavirus. That is our News in Depth tonight. Thank you everyone for watching. Same time, same place. Tune in tomorrow for more. Take care.